The Vulcan line is Roccat's set of premium gaming keyboards. These devices differentiate themselves with optical switches, extensive configurability, vibrant lighting effects, and an overall higher build quality. When I reviewed the original full-size Vulcan, I found the asking price to be a little steep. The Vulcan 2 Max is Roccat's newest edition, but at almost double the price of the original, can it even offer a compelling value proposition? The Vulcan 2 Max is a full-size RGB optical gaming keyboard that launches today and retails for $230. It comes in black or white and is available on Roccat's website or through our Amazon affiliate link. All other products mentioned in this video will also have affiliate links included in the description. Side note, a lot of you have asked me recently about where I get these shirts that I've been wearing in my videos, and they're actually from a local company here in Arizona called Retro Rifle. They didn't sponsor this video or anything, I just really like their stuff and felt like it was worth mentioning. On with the review. Unboxing the Vulcan 2 Max is an excellent experience, but it's nothing more spectacular than the original Vulcan. The packaging is informative and the internal foam helps protect the board. Besides the keyboard and palm rest, there's only one other thing in the box, and that's the instruction manual. The cable is not detachable and there is no keycap puller. The board is hefty at 2.3 pounds and takes up a considerable amount of space at 18.2 inches wide and 9.3 inches tall, and that's all before adding the palm rest. The design of the board follows in the footsteps of its minimalistic predecessor, but has been even further simplified. The beveled edges help reduce the contrast between the sandblasted black aluminum backplate and the plastic underbelly. The chamfer on the lower shell has been increased to exaggerate the thinness of the board and give it a more blade-like stance. The double-shot ABS keycaps have very little texture but do have a curved profile to help keep fingers planted. Like keycaps on other Vulcan keyboards, they cover very little of the underlying switch. The exposed transparent switches allow RGB lighting to spill out around each key. Like other keyboards, the Vulcan 2 Max has a function key that unlocks a secondary set of options. This applies to the entire function row and the page control keys above the directional arrows. What's unique is that the 21 function keys also have a secondary symbol and LED. These specific keys have two LEDs, one above the plunger for the primary function and one below for the secondary. Normally both LEDs are lit, but the primary is brighter. When pressing the function key, the secondary gets brighter. According to Roccat, this dual illumination feature they refer to as smart keys is an industry first. So far this feature has only been available on the Vulcan 2 Max and the Vulcan 2 Mini I reviewed a few weeks ago. The new Titan 2 switches are offered in both a tactile brown and, like this one, a linear red. A rubberized palm rest attaches to the base of the board and helps amplify the RGB effects. There's a row of RGB lights on the bottom of the board, and the palm rest snaps into place to diffuse the light. Up top, a braided and incredibly thick cable connects to a PC with two USB-A connectors. Media buttons and a volume knob round out the available controls. The Vulcan 2 Max has many new features to separate itself from the crowd. A lot of these features I already covered in my review of the Vulcan 2 Mini, so if you want to see those in greater detail, check out that video. Game mode on the Vulcan 2 Max disables the Windows key, enables game mode specific keys, and transforms the caps lock key into an easy shift key. Similar to a function key, easy shift adds a secondary function to the alphanumerical keys. These secondary functions can be mapped to any other key on the keyboard, send operating system commands, navigate internet settings, trigger macros, perform multimedia functions, open programs or games, and even set, stop, and reset a timer. Easy Shift can even be used across Roccat devices. Engaging Easy Shift on a Roccat keyboard allows a secondary set of commands to be mapped to a supported Roccat mouse. Since Easy Shift is user configurable, these keys do not get a secondary legend or LED. In addition to Easy Shift, Game Mode also enables key remapping and macros. But for any of this functionality to work, Swarm needs to be running in the background. I've performed a deep dive of Swarm's software previously, but it's Roccat's peripheral software. It's used to modify device properties, configure keystroke and button assignments, and customize lighting effects. The Vulcan 2 Max is only the second keyboard to use Roccat's new Titan II optical switch. The switch first appeared on the Vulcan 2 Mini in a linear red variant. The Vulcan 2 Max keeps the red switch but also adds a tactile brown as an option. The red switches have an actuation point of 1.4 millimeters and the browns actuate at 1.8 millimeters. Total travel distance for both is 3.6 millimeters, making them about 10% shallower than the well-known Cherry MX switches. The operational force for both switch types is 45 grams, identical to Cherry MX Reds, but about 18% lighter than MX Browns. Optical switches are generally more expensive to produce than mechanical switches, but they have a distinct advantage that makes them faster and usually more reliable. Mechanical switches record a keystroke by contacting a metal plate. Optical switches operate by blocking an infrared light source. This lack of physical contact means they can be rated at over 100 million keystrokes. The Titan II switches also use a standard cross-mounted design for compatibility with keycaps from other manufacturers. If I were the type of person who spent, let's say, hundreds of dollars on custom keycaps, this feature would be incredibly important to me. The Vulcan 2 Max has full end key rollover with 100% anti-ghosting, a 1000 Hz polling rate, 32-bit ARM Cortex-M3 processor, and 4 MB of onboard storage. The board angle can also be increased by opening one of the two sets of feet that can set the board at 2 positions. I really like the look of the Vulcan 2 Max. Its simple design feels modern and fresh, but the star of the show is that illuminated palm rest. The Vulcan 2 line already has some of the brightest lighting in the industry, but this takes it to a whole other level. I've seen RGB palm rests before, but these are usually perimeter lit and require their own power source. The Vulcan 2 Max palm rest requires no power source and diffuses the light internally through a series of channels, which in my opinion is a more elegant approach. You can actually see if the palm rest is fully inserted by how bright it is. For a keyboard this big, it's remarkable how sturdy it is. I made a similar comment about the Vulcan 2 Mini, but it's even more impressive on a wider board. The keycaps are decent, but at this price point, I would really expect to see PBT keycaps instead of ABS. While there are pros and cons to each material, PBT is generally considered to be higher quality and longer lasting, and honestly, I like the feel of those better. This may be subjective, but I also don't appreciate the smooth feel of the keycaps and prefer a bit more texture. The keycaps can easily be swapped out, but doing so means the secondary LED for the smart switches won't be visible. Keycaps with traditional sides will also block the diffusion provided by a keycap design that leaves the sides exposed. The Titan II sound and feel like other linear switches, but slightly quieter. Take a listen. Typing on the Vulcan 2 Max is enjoyable, and there's minimal play in the switch design. Additionally, the copious non-slip material on the bottom of the board prevents it from sliding around. While we're down here, I'll take this opportunity to mention that opening the feet provides some serious ASMR level satisfaction. I'm happy to see the media controls have been changed to buttons and a soft touch dial instead of the spongy rubber cubes on the original. They now also adopt the lighting effects of the rest of the board. It's a small change, but it greatly amplifies the perception of quality. While the cord is made of what seems to be a premium material, it is comically thick. It's like a braided umbilical cord. The purpose of this extra thick design becomes evident when you trace it to the end and find not one, but two USB-A connectors. Both connectors have an image of a keyboard, but I only needed one for the keyboard to function. Windows didn't even recognize when I plugged in the second one. This led me to believe the second USB could be for a USB pass-through. I have reviewed keyboards in the past with such a feature. However, there's no USB port on the board, and the user manual makes no mention of it. I reached out to my contact at Roccat, who spoke to their engineers and informed me that the primary cord handles all of the data transfer and lighting commands, and the second cable is just to give the keyboard more power if needed. This is the only keyboard I've tested that needs two USB cables to power the lighting effects. Now, I happen to be using a USB 3.1 connection, which seemed to power the device just fine by itself. But not everyone will have access to one of those, so the secondary connection is there as an insurance policy. On a device this configurable, the peripheral software can either enhance or ruin the overall experience. Thankfully, Roccat Swarm software is actually pretty good. The theme is more of an early 2010s gamer feel, and as someone who works in web design, I prefer something a little sleeker, but functionally, it works just fine. It's snappy, non-intrusive, and the available options are impressive. There's certainly a learning curve to finding where the countless settings are located, but Roccat created in-depth walkthroughs on their website. The key things to understand is that this is where you need to go if you plan to remap keys, set function or easy shift values, or write macros. I know for some people, especially those that are into real-time strategy experiences, macros are incredibly important. Swarm makes writing these macros easy by providing a list of popular games and many of their associated actions. The Vulcan 2 Max also has 6 macro keys that can be accessed while in game mode. Most people won't explore all of these settings, but for those that use them, they're quite invaluable. While the handful of lighting effects included with the Swarm software are certainly creative, I would have liked to see a few more options here, given how impressive and expansive the lighting is. You can create your own custom lighting scheme and even address the palm rest individually, that you can only select from a static, breathing, or heartbeat effect. Regardless of those limitations, the Vulcan 2 Max has to be maybe the best lighting of any RGB keyboard I've tested. While $230 is certainly not cheap, it's pretty much on par with other high-end, full-size optical keyboards. The closest competitors would be the Razer Huntsman Analog and the Corsair K100, which both retail for $250. However, these devices have features the Vulcan 2 Max is missing, including analog switches, USB pass-through, more onboard memory, faster polling rates, and higher quality PBT keycaps. That being said, I don't think these boards are the product's fiercest competition. I actually think that comes from the original Vulcan, which is not only still being sold, but I've regularly seen for as little as $99. If you like the look and feel of a full-size Vulcan board and are willing to settle for a slightly lower build quality and about 80% of the functionality, I'd take a look at that first. For those that need more advanced features and configurability, or you just can't live without this admittedly pretty awesome palm rest, there aren't many boards out there that offer more than the Vulcan 2 Max. The price is steep, but in today's market, it's fair. Links to everything I mentioned can be found in the video description, including where to buy these awesome shirts from Retro Rifle. If you want to see my other keyboard reviews, check out these videos up here and stay subscribed so you know when our new content is available to watch. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.